somebody's driving erratically on the interstate, they're cutting in and out of traffic, and you see that happen, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't take a circumstantial view of that. I think you'd probably think that the reason they're driving like that is because they're like the aperture on the human body responsible for the elimination of fecal waste. They're like a rectal pore, that's why they're driving. But then you find out that there's a guy driving, and in the back seat is his wife whose water just broke and he's trying to get himself to a hospital, and all of a sudden you have an understanding of what's going on because you know the circumstances, and if there's anything you can do to help get to the hospital, you probably would. Everything this view touches gets better. So, why is it more popular? Because it isn't. His vision was it was a generic idea, and he developed a generic science that would one day be seen to be relevant to all of human behavior. His vision has not been realized. However, the science and the idea has flourished in one tail of the normal distribution. We have done more for the populations that reside there than any profession since the dawn of time. We have brought the people that reside there out of the dark ages in which they have lived for millennia into the bright lights of the lives that we live, and I say more of that, please. Continue that work. We can't have too much of it, but if we want to have a mainstream role, we got to get into the dome of that normal distribution and show people in everyday life that our idea and science is relevant to their life too. So we've got work to do there. I got my graduate degree at the University of Kansas, and I was in behavioral psychology. My professors were Don Baer, Mark Roosevelt, and Todd Risley, so I got pretty lucky. That was by day. By night, I went to a clinical psychology program because I wanted to be licensed when I got out of school, and the clinical psychology people talked about the behavioral psychology people, and they referred to them as the push-pull, click-click people. Why? Because they thought that we work with very simple responses exhibited by very simple organisms, for example, rats, pigeons, and persons with developmental disabilities, and then if you wanted to work with more sophisticated responses exhibited by more sophisticated individuals, then you needed more sophisticated ideas, and by sophisticated ideas, they meant those old ideas. So what's wrong with them? Why aren't they getting this? Are they stupid? Are they stupid? No, they're not stupid. They're ignorant. Now, see, stupid means lacking capacity. They do not lack capacity. Ignorant means lacking information. They lack information. Who's got the information? We've got the information. Whose responsibility would it be to get the information if people don't have it? I'd say that'd be our responsibility. Then the question is, how are we doing? And I'd say terrible. We're just doing a terrible job of this. And one of the ways that we do it terribly is by correcting them when we hear how they talk about behavior. See, they like the way they talk about behavior. They're comfortable with their view. And if you correct them, if you try to, or educate them, that's one of the things we try to educate people that have not signed up to be educated. So in an attempt to educate people that have not signed up to be educated, what you're basically doing is correcting them, and they don't like to be corrected. We show up in their world like the grammar police. Nobody likes the grammar police. You know, I say to somebody, "You're hard to put up with." And they say to me, "You're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition." So I say to them, "Okay, you're hard to put up with, asshole." So here's what I'm recommending, getting to my point. Like we maybe abandon our attempt to technically educate people that aren't in our field. Stop using this insistence that they get it technically correct, because that isn't getting us anywhere. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I had an interesting experience a few days ago. I had a momentary infinitesimal lag in the ordinary operation of two coactive perceptual nerves. You had those? You've had those, right? You know what I'm talking about. You don't know what I'm talking about. Well, you know why? Because that's a technical account of what happened. Let me give you the colloquial account. I had a deja vu. Now you know what I'm talking about. See, that's how it feels. You know what a deja vu is, but when somebody gives you a technical description and you're not in that area, you don't know what that is. So what was the deja vu? So I'm talking to this guy, and I'm telling him what I do. And he says, "Oh, you're a behavior analyst." "Yeah." He goes, "So you guys work with rats, pigeons, and persons with developmental disabilities?" And I'm like, deja vu. In fact, deja vu all over again. So, So, I'm suggesting that we abandon our attempt to educate people and we start trying to seduce them. Like I say, they did not sign up to be educated by us. They don't necessarily want to be educated by people that they haven't signed up to be educated by. But everybody likes to be seduced, at least successfully. So I say, let's go that route. See, in this attempt to educate them, we're not informing them about something they can't see or don't know of. You know, we're not talking about something that's only located on the surface of a distant planet that's never been seen before. We're not talking about something that's located 20,000 leagues beneath the sea that's never been seen before. We're not talking about something that can only be seen through the lens of an electron microscope that hasn't been seen before. If we were, they'd want to be educated by us because they wouldn't know what it is. And if we were, we would have naming rights. So we have adopted naming rights, but we're naming stuff they already have names for. Look, they're perfectly happy with request. They're not going to adopt man. They're perfectly happy with label. They're not going to pick up tact. They've got words for this stuff. We're going to have to go a different route. I'm not saying we shouldn't use those words. I'm just saying we shouldn't expect that they use those words. It's the idea we want to get across to them. The circumstantial view is the ultimate aim. So let's talk about the seduction business. So you've all benefited from seduction. You've all benefited from seduction. Unless your mother was a test tube. Your mother wasn't a test tube, was she? And I'm going to just go on a limb here and assume that you all, maybe most all, have successfully seduced someone, maybe many someones. And or you've been successfully seduced by someone, maybe many someones. And sadly, I have to go out on this limb too. That I'm going to assume that you've all unsuccessfully maybe many someones. And then someone, maybe many someones, have unsuccessfully attempted to seduce you. So, what makes a successful seduction? Well, a primary component is effective communication. And that effective communication has to persuasively communicate the value and the benefit of the activity that's on offer. And if it does, then it's on, baby. But if it doesn't successfully communicate the value and the benefit of the activity on offer, it's not going to happen. So, let me ask you this. In your attempt to seduce, did you use a technically accurate description of the anatomy and physiology so that your proposed partner would be very, very clear on exactly what was going to happen to his or her body, inside and out? And in your attempt to seduce them, did you use technically specific words like uterus, cervix, seminal vesicles, prostate gland, epididymis, testicles, gonads, vagina, fallopian tubes, coitus, copulation, genitalia, mons deferens, pubic bone, ducts, and glands? If you did, then what we're talking about here is an unsuccessful attempt at seduction. Because technical language is not seductive. So, what we have in our field is a geek factor. The core idea generators in our field are basically geeks. Now, let me talk a little bit about that. There's a population in the world that is unified by two dimensions or two aspects. One is deficient social competence, and the other is capacity to contribute to the common good. And it's stratified into four groups. The bottom group is a group called dorks. Deficient social competence, minimal capacity to contribute to the common good. Above them are dweebs. Deficient social competence, modest capacity to contribute to the common good. Above them are nerds, deficient social competence, moderate capacity to contribute to the common good. And above them are geeks, deficient social competence, profound capacity to contribute to the common good. So who are some geeks? Steve Jobs was a geek, total geek. What did he do? He gathered together a bunch of geeks and developed his ideas and spent a ton of money hiring people to market those ideas. And everybody knows what happened is. Bill Gates, total geek. What did he do? He gathered together fellow geeks, developed his ideas, and spent a ton of money hiring people to market his ideas to the world. And B.F. Skinner, total geek, deficient social competence, profound capacity to contribute to the common good. What did he do? Gathered together a group of geeks. He didn't spend one red cent hiring people or getting people to market his ideas to the world. So, what is a geek? A geek is an individual that has a personality that lacks a marketing function, and they have a profound capacity to contribute to the common good. So a geek in high school won't have any friends unless they meet someone who has friends, and that person recognizes their capacity to contribute to the common good, and then that person markets this geek to all his or her friends, and now the geeks have friends. So they make friends. So there's something that's really important. Man, I love the geeks. You gotta get this. Without the geeks, we got nothing. Without the geeks, we got nothing. We didn't develop any of this stuff. They developed all of it. They developed all the conceptual and empirical floorboards upon which we stand. And if they pull out, they might just take those boards with them. We don't do enough to revere these people for the work that they do. In my opinion, there should be statues of them all around this room. If I were still a professor, I would require my students to attend at least a half a day of SQUAB, the Society for the Quantitative Analysis of Behavior, at every ABAI, and ask them to at least pull one idea out of that meeting that we could use. I tried to get into SQUAB last year, I got kicked out. They were playing a game called Find the One That Doesn't Belong. Because I'm not a geek. I'm not smart enough or dedicated enough or committed enough to be a geek. I wanted to be a geek, I just couldn't pull it together. But I revere them and I revere what they do for us, but we cannot count on them to do this marketing stuff for us. They don't necessarily like marketing all that well. They know that marketers overpromise and underdeliver, but that's just part of the business. If we're going to market this idea, it's going to be up to us. They'll give us the concepts, they'll give us the conceptual floorboards, but they're not going to do the marketing for us. That's up to us. So, every once in a while I get lonely for ideas, you know, and if I'm alone at home, I get lonely for ideas, and so I'll go to Match.com for ideas. Match.com for ideas, otherwise known as Wikipedia. And so I'll start looking at ideas, see which one I might want to go out with or spend time with. And what you get is a picture of an idea, and then you get a description and a label. And this is the first idea that I saw the other night when I was pining away for the company of an idea, behavioral momentum, and that's her picture. And I mean, take a look at her parentheses. She got me at a fever pitch. But you really have to. You have to hear her description. I mean, just to get the, the full flavor. How she describes herself. Conversely, the Pavlovian relation established between the context as a discriminative stimulus and the rate or magnitude, but not both, of reinforcement obtained in the context, i.e. stimulus-reinforcement relation, governs the resistance to the behavior class movement. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it doesn't really get any hotter than that, does it? Well, it turns out it does, because I'm one of those fickle people, and yes, I got, behavioral momentum pretty well, but I decided to go back online and see if there wasn't somebody else I'd be interested in, and so, darn it, I found another one. Behavioral, or the matching law. Now, look at the symmetry of her figure. Look at that cute little equal sign. And here's her description. The constants B and S are referred to as bias and sensitivity, respectively. Sensitivity changes the slope and bias changes the intercept. This generalized matching law accounts for high proportion. Oh, baby, I can't read it further. Now, we don't go to Wikipedia to find out about our field. We go to our textbooks, we go to our classes, we go to conferences, we go to journal articles. People outside our field go to Wikipedia to find out about our field, and I submit to you that many, maybe even most of us, don't understand the descriptions of the matching law and behavioral momentum that are in Wikipedia, and nobody outside of our field would understand any of that. You know why? That's geeks talking to geeks. We can't count on them to do this for us. We have to do it. There will be some slippage in there, some, whatever you might call it, sloppiness. That's fine. It's good enough for jazz. We're just trying to export this idea to people that don't have it or have it and don't use it. So let me just play with these concepts using my own language, because I explain these terms to all my clients, except I don't use this language. So behavioral momentum is behavioral foreplay. That's all it is. Everybody understands, well, I was going to say everybody understands foreplay in a sexual context, but probably a lot of women in the room are thinking, I don't know. If they do.
Oh my God.
So with behavioral foreplay, you're just building up the gradual desire for the activity that we were talking about earlier. So the technical part of this is momentum is what, mass times velocity. And I guess we understand that in a physics context, but what about a behavioral context? Pretty simple. I mean, the mass is just the relationship of the thing with reinforcement, and velocity is rate. So let's say you have two behaviors that are occurring at the same rate. And they have different relationships with reinforcement. For example, one is taking castor oil, and the other is taking heroin, and they're both occurring once a week. The way you determine a momentum is which one would be harder to stop. You apply the same intervention to each, like extinction, for example. Well, it's obvious. The castor oil one would fold very quickly, just go to zero, because it's not associated with very much reinforcement, whereas heroin would be really, really hard to stop because it has a lot of behavioral mass. I don't even use this kind of technical language with my clients, but I'm mentioning it here because I want you to know this concept is so powerful. It allows people to figure out a way to get people in their lives to do stuff they want them to do, but they're reluctant to do. Who doesn't have that concern? Who has nobody in their life that isn't doing something they want them to do? We all have people in our lives that aren't doing things we want them to do. Here's a method we could use to get them to do it. So in a sexual context, if I see a woman I'm attracted to, I don't know her, I've never met her, I walk right up to her and say, do you want to sleep with me? The answer is obviously going to be no, but she's getting paid for it. Who would do that? You start way, way out before that. Like, that's why I have a picture of vacuuming here. That's foreplay. It's associated with reinforcement, and it builds up over time. And if a guy does it right, then by the time the request is timed well, he won't even have to make it. It'll just be a foregone conclusion. So here's another take on behavioral momentum. It also is like, this is like good enough for jazz. It's like resistance to extinction. There's a lot of momentum, so it resists extinction. Now, how does it resist extinction? And Tony Nevin describes this. He says when there are stimuli in the environment that signal the availability of reinforcement, they don't have to be delivered to the behavior. They just have to be seemingly available in the environment. And there'll be a lot of resistance to extinction if they're there. Like people say extinction doesn't work. Was it Rachel Taylor was talking about that? They, oh, how could it not work? You cut off the life supply of a behavior and it continues on? What is it, like a vampire or like Frankenstein? No, it always works. It's just really hard to implement, and especially if there are stimuli in the environment to signal the availability of reinforcement. So like physicians don't like to have parents in the room when they're doing painful medical procedures on their children because that look on mom's face is stimuli suggesting that escape may be possible, and so the child acts out more. Here's some stimuli. We're just talking about my house here, by the way, not your house. This is the flannel nightgown. It's a set of stimuli. In the presence of the set of stimuli called the flannel nightgown, there is very, very little resistance to extinction of amorous and romantic responses exhibited by me. My house. Why is that? Because it signals the unavailability of reinforcement. Conversely, so the matching law. So the matching law answers a question that people have. Everybody that comes into my clinic fundamentally has this question. Why do they do this instead of that? And it answers that question. And I don't have to know what this is, and I don't have to know what that is, and I don't have to know who they're talking about, and I already know the answer. That's how powerful the matching law is. They're doing this instead of that because this is more likely to produce reinforcement with less effort than that. And the other question is, well, how do we get them to do that? And I know the answer. Again, without knowing anything more. Okay, you want them to do that? Arrange for that to be more likely to produce reinforcement with less effort than do that instead of this. Who wouldn't want to have that kind of material available to them? See, the thing is, it directs people in how to think about problems and solve them without resorting to those old ideas. So powerful, so left on the shelf, so unavailability to people in everyday life. It should be so available to people in everyday life. And if they knew what we were talking about when we talked about the matching law, they'd want to have it for themselves. Let me just try to get at this. So here's a being that regularly exhibits problem behavior, especially in the presence of humans. And there are two sources of reinforcement that are in this slide. One you can see, one you can't see. One source are the fish, the other source are the photographers. The bear is going to allocate all its behavior to the fish. The photographers are perfectly safe under these conditions. Why? Because the probability of obtaining reinforcement by fishing is much, much higher than the probability of reinforcement by photography, and there's less effort involved. There are two sources of reinforcement in this slide. I know what you're thinking, but no, that's not it. The photographers are one, and the huckleberry bushes behind the bear is another. These photographers are also safe because the probability of the bear obtaining reinforcement by huckleberrying is 100%, very little effort. Whereas if you went after the photographers, the probability of reinforcement is not 100%, and there's way more effort involved. He's going to allocate his behavior to those berry bushes. This is the kind of thing the matching law explains. So, let me take a cut at another dimension to our field, a central theme of everything that we do, and that is, how do they learn? And you can boil it all down to a formula that they can understand. They, meaning people outside the field, they learn through repetition with contrast. They learn by doing stuff and having what they've done produce a change in their circumstances, and there are only two possibilities. Pleasant change in circumstances, unpleasant change in circumstances, and with a pleasant change in circumstances, they're more likely to do the thing again. Unpleasant change in circumstances, they're less likely to do the thing again. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm telling you how I tell them. But what governs the amount of repetition that's necessary? One of the main features is the size of the change. So, taking the unpleasant domain as an example, how many times do you think a young boy would have to pee on an electric fence in order to learn a very valuable lesson about electricity? That's one trial learning. Even domesticated animals learn this way. I used to have a fat and stupid cat. I have no idea how he got so stupid. I'm very clear on how he got so fat. So he was so stupid, I had to be careful where I put things like candles in my house. He was so fat, I didn't have to be too careful. He couldn't jump up very high. But then the lights went out of my neighborhood for a few days, and I'm not a disaster-ready guy. I don't have a generator, or I didn't have a flashlight that worked. So I started putting candles everywhere, and I put some down in Stupid's world. Stupid rushes over when I'm not looking and sniffs the flame. Kind of burns his nose, burns his whiskers, and he shoots down into the basement. It's getting dark. It's pitch black down there. I gotta go down and check on him because he's murmuring. I got no flashlight. So I get a candle and go down. It's like a wild animal down there. I can't get near him. Don't know what's going on. And then I realize, oh yeah, he learned something. The candle attacked him on the main floor. Now it's coming to the basement to finish up the job. Over in the pleasant domain, there are experiences humans have that are so exquisitely pleasant that once they've had them, they will, for the rest of their lives, be mentally rehearsing the steps that led to that happy outcome and have to fight the urge to retrace them. I know it would seem opportune for me to talk about sex right now, but I'm going to talk about drugs instead. So there are substances, the injection of which into the human body, or the ingestion of which into the human body, produces one trial learning. The instant heroin, for example, hits the bloodstream, a lifetime of craving is born. It doesn't mean the person's addicted, but they will always have to fight the urge to have more heroin. So imagine how easy our work would be, say working with children, trying to get them to do what you want them to do, if we could use blowtorches and heroin. We could get them to do anything. They line up, chew with their mouth closed, raise their hand and be called upon, do their chores, do their homework, ask for more. They do anything to avoid the torch and get the drugs. We got nothing that powerful. We don't have tools like that. Now what do we have instead of like blowtorches? Oh, we got time out. We got grounding, point fines, withdrawal of privilege. I mean, that's unpleasant stuff, but the degree of unpleasantness there doesn't even compare with being burned. What do we have instead of heroin? We got stickers, stars, and stuff. And kids love that stuff, but not so much that it's going to produce one trial learning. And this is what people don't understand and we don't get across to them. Repetition is the key, given the weakness of our tools. Now, we can take this further. I don't have to just talk about children here. This is something to recognize. These principles apply to every aspect of everybody's life, not just kids and not just people with developmental disabilities. So this thing between pleasant changing circumstances and unpleasant changing circumstances, there's a ratio there. Let's call it a ratio between the carrot and the stick. So people come to see me clinically. Before they ever come in the office, I know why they're there. And I also know exactly what I need to do in order to get them to not come anymore, to be satisfied with their services, my services. The reason why they have come to me is because they're in a relationship, either with themselves or with somebody else. Could be a child, could be a spouse, could be an employer, could be a sibling, a neighbor. They're in a relationship that has a ratio that is dominated by the stick. What do I have to do to fix that problem? I have to fix the ratio so it's dominated by the carrot. And once it's dominated by the carrot, they don't come back anymore. So I know what to do without even knowing who they are, without even knowing what the problem is, because at the heart of their problem is that ratio, and we can work with that. People outside of our field have grasped this as they work with couples. And what they've learned is if you get that ratio of carrot to stick, like up around 5 to 1 or higher, that marriages are immune to all the known causes of divorce, including infidelity. But if that ratio falls down below 1 to 1, divorce is a virtual certainty. It might just be emotional and physical, but it's very likely also to be legal. So when you're working with marriages, which I do, I take aim at that ratio. I'm guided, though, in my aim by the central idea of our field. This is my point. We're just not getting these ideas out to the world very well. So, here's another bear, and here's another fisherman, or here's a fisherman that's fishing. And this guy's in a lot of trouble. And the way that the culture in which we live would deal with this problem would be to be really hard on that bear. That's how we are. That's what happened to those old ideas. We're hard on the person, and we don't pay much attention to the circumstances. We try to fix the blame, we don't try to fix the problem. But this is a fixable problem, theoretically. What would I have to do? Again, this is just theoretical. If I had a helicopter and dropped a big basket of fish between that bear and that fisherman, the bear would allocate its behavior to the fish, problem solved. But the way our society would solve this problem is by getting a guy with a 30-60 to shoot the bear. We can do better by trying to rearrange circumstances to bring about the kind of behavior that we want to see in people. So, I have no problem with these words and the words that are like them. This is really important for us to know these words and have a technical language that we use to master it. But the language is for the lab. The language is for the classroom. The language is for the journal article. The language is for the conference. The language is for the classroom. It is not for conversations with your friends and family. It's not for a conversation with people on the street. For that, we need ordinary, plain language and examples that reveal the principles that are at the heart of our field And even if there's a little slippage in there, it's fine, because we're not trying to export the science. We're trying to export the idea. That's the key, the circumstantial view of behavior. That's what Skinner was trying to get out to the world. He invented the science in order to export the idea into the world, not the other way around. So, I'm with Einstein on this. And I really feel like those of you that are in class should learn to master this vocabulary using your instructors as a guide. Those of you that have classes should be enforcing rules or creating circumstances in which your students master the technical language. They should master it so well that they can easily translate it into ordinary terms. So they can speak fluently using the technical language of our field in the classroom, and then they can call up their mother and tell them what was talked about in class in a language that she understands. They go back and forth like a translator, like they're bilingual. Stakes are really high. I mean, I'm joking around up here, but I'm also serious as a heart attack. This world is in bad shape. And by and large, in my opinion, it's a function of the way people think about people. And when they think about people, they're using those old ideas to think about people. And those old ideas are dangerous ideas. They are fueling the horrible things that people do to people. We are in possession of something quite different. We are in possession of an idea. Everything it touches improves. And we want it to touch the lives of everyday people. We have it, they don't. So, this is going to sound a little funky, but you're the chosen people. We are the chosen people. Or if you want to use language that's maybe something more like what Matt Norman would use, we're the selected people. Now, what does that mean? What have you been selected for? We have been selected by the circumstances of our lives to receive the circumstantial view of behavior into our lives. I don't know how it happened for you. I don't know what the circumstances were. Maybe you had a professor that provided it for you, or you had a book that you read, or it just came to you in divine inspiration. I don't know how it got there, but it did get there. We have this idea, and it animates us, it motivates us, it unifies us, it invigorates us. But most importantly, what it does, it awakens something that lies dormant in the hearts of most men and women, and that is the profound desire to make the world a better place. You see, early in life, everyone has that desire. Early in life, everybody wants to make the world a better place. But that idea, that inspiration, that motivation kind of goes to sleep in people because they realize they got nothing to work with. They want to make the world a better place, but they don't have any means to do it. But when we receive the idea into our lives, all of a sudden we realize we could make the world a better place. We have the means to do that, and that's why there's such animation and invigoration in our field. So Skinner lamented, "We happy few." Well, why so few? And I actually envision a day when someone, perhaps somebody in this audience, will get up in front of a large crowd, maybe the world, and say, "We happy many, and thank God there are so many." And thank you.